I'm really in love with queer Brazilian cinema. I think it's one of the one in the world that capture the best how sexiness, how sex can be really political, and I love this kind of topics. And
First of all, thank you so much to be sitting here with us to be talking about queer cinema in a moment where we have the duty to do this, right? What led you as a journalist, as a film criticism, to work with queer cinema?
it's in my personal trip in the life, you know. I think that when I was a teenager, queer cinema was really important because it was in the 90s and it was a way to discover that anything was possible. I think that I grew up with Greg Araki's movies and perhaps it saved my life.
Queer Palm was founded in 2010
Yeah.
by you. What were you trying to fill? What were the gaps to be filled in?
It was quite difficult because when I created it in 2010, I just informed the Festival of Cannes that I will create the award, and they never answered. So we are not officially an award in Cannes, but we have 15 years of existence now, and it's getting more and more important. We had really great juries each year to give the award. And the evolution is really important because the first year in 2010, we had 6 movies to judge. And nowadays, since 10 years, we each year have between 15 and 20 movies. So we pick in each competition in Cannes, and we bring our jury in any screening rooms, and it's getting more and more important. The Queer Palm is now the most talked about in the media queer award in the world. So
Do you think we already reached like a general space or a general place actually in film festivals, or we're still are seeing like it's something niche?
it's less and less niche, as you say, because in the 90s, or even in the beginning of the 21st century, the queer movies were only independent, low-budget movies, and it's getting more and more commercial movies about queer topics. So it's now it's like movie in general. We had a lot of different queer cinema, so it's kind of a normalization state, I think.
Can you talk a little bit about the Queer Palm Lab as well? How does this project works?
Okay, we created the Queer Palm Lab in 2024. So the first promotion was 24-25. So it's 1-year mentorship for directors who are working on their first features with queer topic. So we select 5 projects each year. So the first year we received more than 200 projects from everywhere in the world. So they begin their mentorship year by a residency in Morelia Film Festival in Mexico. And after, we follow them during the year. And at the end, they come to Cannes to pitch their project and to serve as a jury for the Queer Palm for short movies. The second class will begin next week in Morelia with the 5 new talents. So one from France, one from Mexico, one from Germany, one from Brazil, and one from Portugal. So we will meet them officially for the first time next week. And the mentor of the mentorship year this year is Charlotte Wells, the director of After Sun. And I think it's a good program because we are really trying to build a safe place for them. And I think it's really useful when you are working on queer topics or on intimate topics to be in this kind of program.
What challenges do you think emerging queer filmmakers face by getting their projects made?
It's difficult everywhere to finance a queer movie. I think that the problem is that a lot of people who decide are still white cis straight guys. And what I can see is the more you have women producers, the more you have people of color producers, the more you have queer people producers, the more it's easy to be heard and to be understood.
Diversity is the key, right?
Totally, because it's really important to be able to meet people that kind of understand what you want to tell. So the more diversity you have in strategic position, the more the queer projects will be easy to do.
And now you are here at the Rio International Film Festival as the president of the Felix Award. How does it feel to you to be here watching and covering the narrative of queer Brazilian cinema?
I was really happy when Hilda invited me to be the president of this jury. It's a really important festival here, and we have really a lot of movies to discover for the Felix Awards, international movie and a lot of Brazilian movie, and I'm really happy to be there because Brazilian queer cinema is really one of my favorites in the world. I'm really interested by new queer voices here in Brazil. Perhaps each year I had Brazilian directors in my jury in Cannes. We had Marcelo Caetano this year, we had Juliana Rojas, we had Marcio and Felipe, we had a lot of queer directors from Brazil because I'm really in love with queer Brazilian cinema. I think it's one in the world that capture the best how sexiness, how sex can be really political, and I love this kind of topics, and it's really well made in Brazilian queer movies.
Do you think there's a dialogue between Queer Palm and Felix Award?
There are dialogues between all queer awards in the world.
Or similarities, you know?
I think the similarity is between the Queer Palm, the Teddy Awards in Berlin, and the Felix here, is not to create a special program, is to pick up in every program selection of the festival. And that's, in my point of view, it's really important not to have a particular program like queer movies, a niche program, but to have queer movies in each selection. It really means a lot. And that's what we have in common. The different things that the Felix is organized by the festival. We are independent of the festival. So I think it's easier to do it in this condition.
There's this paradox because representation has increased, has advanced, but we are now facing a time where the conservative backlash are at its peak.
Yeah.
How do you see the political role of queer cinema nowadays?
I think it's a duty to talk about queer movies. I think it's more and more important to see queer movies. It's more and more important to give the desire to straight audience to discover queer movies, to discover queer narratives, and to think about what politicians decide everywhere in the world. And I think it's a moment to perhaps to help more and more, for example, trans voices to be heard. I really want to discover more and more trans voices, more and more trans directors. It's really something that is really important today. And I was a bit disappointed because we didn't receive so many projects from queer trans voices. And I really hope that next year we will have more and more trans projects, because the trans voices has to be heard, because people cannot understand what trans people are living right now. Really, it's a nightmare. It's a political nightmare and human nightmare.
Yeah, and even inside the community, we see like a queer festival. We have a lot of gay movies. you still have this lack of representation inside
Yeah.
the community,
And
right?
that's a pity. That's why I said, please, trans director, send me your candidature for the Queer Palm next year. Really, we have to hear your voices. And it's a lack.
Invite us.
In the Queer Festival, you're right. There's a lack of trans movies. And, you know, it's kind of sociological explanation for trans people are usually it's more difficult for them to access to cinema studies, to this kind of thing. It's more difficult to have access to a lot of things. And I think that's why when I meet trans people who wants to do cinema, who asking for advices, I really every time tell them, now with your phone you can make a short movie. It can be your cultural ID, and you can show that to professional. It's open the conversation. Let's do a movie by yourself. If we found the Queer Palm Lab, it was really because we received each year tons of emails from queer talents everywhere in the world telling us, how can I do my movie? Can you help me? So we had to do something about this. And we're always available to give advice, to help people to go further in their projects.
All right, I think is this. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you, were perfect.